When you're watching Superman. Ba, 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 ba. I don't know if that's the theme song. You know what I mean? But if I didn't tell you it wasn't the theme song, I bet you would believe it was the theme song. You know what I mean? So this is the start of James Gunn's DC Universe storytelling of movies. You know what I mean? Comic book movie universe and whatnot. And I don't want to forget the actor's name for Superman because I've seen him in I think other things. I don't remember the exact. David Cornsweet. There it is. David Cornsweet, Nicholas Holt, Rachel Brosnahan. Um, let's see. I'll just stick with those for now. Okay. Anyways, I felt like this movie. I thought it was a great opening. You know, I thought it was a great introduction to the kind of DC universe world that Marvel hasn't done. Well, the difference is that Marvel has been building their superhero, they've been building their superhero franchise through movie after movie after movie. This one goes in right into the gate and it lets you know that this is a superhero society with like metahumans and whatnot, and Superman isn't the only metahuman, but he's like the strongest one. And then they tell you that there's other heroes and other fighters and other people out there and aliens and whatnot. So I think that the really cool thing about this kind of a movie is that, and what they're doing with a lot of movies, with a lot of comic book movies, is that they're not giving you the origin, right? Like, they're not showing you Superman coming to Earth as a baby, you know what I mean? They're not showing you his mom and dad that raised him on the farm. I mean, they do show that, but like, it's already been established that he's lived there, you know what I mean? They're not just giving you the origin here. They're giving you a day in the life of Superman, where he's already has his greatest foe, Lex Luthor, and there's already like threats to the universe, to the world, to Metropolis and stuff, and there's other heroes that Superman can work with and rely on, and he has a dog named Crypto, and just throwing in a bunch of things in there. And then James Gunn does what he does best, is he balances the characters out well. He balances the characters to interact with one another, with dialogue, with like really good examples of how the comic books or, the comics show these characters being, you know what I mean? They, like the Green Lantern guy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much of that like is actually in the comic books, but he balances it so well that all you really need to know about him is that he is a Green Lantern and he believes in like saving people or helping people, being part of the Justice Gang or whatever, you know what I mean? And I like that. And then Mr. Terrific is a genius. He's super smart. He's tech savvy, you know what I mean? And that's the cool strength about it, is you get to see each of their unique skills and differences, you know what I mean? And then Superman, you get to see his good, kind nature and how just because you have superpowers, just because you can do anything, doesn't mean you can do everything. You know what I mean? He tries to help tried to stop a war from happening, and a genocide and a killing of people, to then being, essentially being like a criminal of the law, or like being hated because he's not following like the rules or procedures. You know what I mean? It's like, why didn't you ask the UN to help? It was like they were gonna launch missiles from tanks. You know what I mean? They were gonna kill people. Like, I don't have to go through permissions to save people. I swooped in and I helped them because they needed to be helped. And you see a lot of this back and forth argument between Lois and, Clark, but you know what I mean, Superman, right? You get to see their back and forth arguments for it. And, I'm obviously on Superman's side here, where it's like, I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to save the day. I'm trying to make sure people don't get killed. And it makes absolutely no sense why I have the power to do it, but I'm being restricted because of the law. And so it's like, does he care about the law, or is he kind of like doesn't care? You know what I mean? It's kind of a, oh, you disrespect the rules and you can do whatever you want. It's like you're a dictator. You know what I mean? When somebody doesn't do something you don't like, you're gonna stop them or hurt them and stuff like that. And it's just like, no, but you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those. It's they're trying to put in place a system where it's like you have to abide by the rules, no matter how stronger you are, or what you feel, or what you believe. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, if you're Superman, what are you supposed to do? You know, sit back and do nothing when you can do something. You know, so I liked how they made that conflict apparent in the movie. And at the same time, they do a good job of like, I think James Gunn said that like this Superman is capable of being beaten. You know what I mean? But once you watch the film, you see that Superman actually only gets defeated by his clone, if you will. You know what I mean? He only gets defeated by a clone of himself. You know what I mean? He doesn't get like beat by just a regular person. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't get destroyed by a robot. You know what I'm saying? He gets beaten by a clone powered up version of himself that's remotely controlled by Lex Luthor. And I thought that was really good. I thought that was really cool. And I also like that they're making Superman somewhat beatable, or somewhat like capable of getting his ass kicked, you know what I mean? Because then it's not as interesting, right? But what's also as interesting is making like Superman have to choose or be in two places at once, which he can't do. So in the movie, they go back to this war thing, and people are going to get killed, and they're screaming for Superman. They're like, Superman, save us, you know? But Superman's fighting his evil counterpart in Lex Luthor, and getting his lungs filled with like nanobots and whatnot, and he can't make it. But then the Justice Gang does. So they do a good job of making Superman have to deal with the big fight, the big priority, whereas the smaller heroes, they get to save the day and be just as important to the story and to saving lives as well. So it becomes a group effort, becomes a group collective, right? So it shows that Superman can't do everything on his own, and the Justice Gang is a great example of other heroes coming together, collaborating with one another in order to save the day, you know, in order to fight on two fronts. And I think that just goes to show why like things like the Justice League come together, because even though Superman can handle most threats, he can't handle them all. So he needs that support. He needs other people that are willing to kind of handle things, you know? And so I thought that was a really nice part of the movie as well. The relationship between Superman and Lex Luthor. Man, Nicholas Hoult is such a great actor. He does a great job in this role. I thought that his level of hate towards Superman, that's real hate. You know what I mean? And I think I saw a tweet about somebody saying like, I'm not hating enough like this guy. You know what I mean? This guy's a real hater. And I couldn't agree more. That guy, definitely, if there's a hater for Superman, it's him, you know? And I thought that was so funny. He literally had an army of monkeys, and he taught them how to type hate comments about Superman. Like, come on now, that's crazy. They also show off and flex his intelligence by creating a pocket dimension. They show, I thought one of the more creative ways of showing that, of using kryptonite was through that guy that can like transform his body into any material from like other planets. I thought that was a really inventive and creative way of like showing kryptonite, as opposed to like Lex Luthor just finds it. You know what I mean? And It also gave us like a little bit of a personal angle, is that this guy is a man who's actively harming Superman, right? But he doesn't want to, or he sees the pain in his face, you know? And I thought that was a really clever way of doing it. And then just Lex Luthor being diabolical, killing that guy who, the food vendor guy. And that guy's a true soldier, man. He was like, "Don't do it, Superman. I have no family. I have no friends. Don't do anything." You know what I mean? And then he gets shot in the head. And then Lex Luthor's like, "Oh, let's go talk to Clark Kent." You know what I mean? I thought that was crazy. That was diabolical. Right in front of Superman's face. And it's one of those moments where it's like, that's real evil. You know what I mean? In a way that you can't, you can't be like, "Oh yeah, that's understandable." You know what I mean? Like, I think maybe in the comics it's kind of, I don't know, if they can kind of give a justification why he doesn't like Superman, is that like, he's this all-powerful god who can't be stopped, and he wants to be the one to stop him or have limits on him, you know what I mean? Whereas in this one, he just hates him to hate him, and he'll do anything to make him suffer. Which is wild. It's wild. And watching their relationship throughout the movie, how Lex Luthor pressures Superman physically, mentally, emotionally. He forces him to confront the hardest parts about himself, and then finally reveal that, like, "Hey, you make me feel bad." You know what I mean? And I'm just as human as anybody else, no matter what my abilities or my strength or my powers are, you know? And I thought that was a really good moment. I thought that was the moment, like, you see Superman try to, like, he becomes vulnerable to Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor isn't really hearing any of it. And then we see, obviously the day is saved and Superman is hanging out and whatever. And then Supergirl comes in and gets Krypto back, which was fun. So stuff like that, I thought this movie did a lot of things well. Now, the fight scenes, I think they did... Well, there were a couple of them. And some of them weren't really, like, human against human. Some of them were, like, against a big monster. And I thought that was a new one, because I think... I don't want to say grotesque. It was a lot more... What's the right word? It felt like they were actually encountering it in reality. Like, what would happen if we fought against a big monster in the middle of the city? Whereas in a movie like The Fantastic Four, you kind of see, like, the city's deserted, it's empty, they don't have to worry about casualties or other people in the way and stuff, you know what I mean? And I felt like those realistic circumstances are what made, or what added to kind of some of the comic book, like, downsides, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's cool that we have Superman in this world, or superheroes or whatever, but then, like, a giant monster appears in the city and it's like, oh snap, now I can't drive to work, or this thing is happening or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know. But anyways, the action scenes, they were good. I don't think they were bad. I thought they were pretty cool. They worked for what they were doing. Let me see. I liked Krypto. I think my favorite character in this movie was honestly probably Mr. Terrific. Superman was great, Lex Luthor was great, and Green Lantern guy was cool, but Mr. Terrific, he definitely stepped up in a way that the others did it, and he got everybody kind of involved in it, you know what I mean? Like, his intelligence was able to figure out the pocket dimension, to get Lois Lane involved, to save Superman, right? I thought it all worked out pretty well. So, and then he ended up like fixing it or closing the pocket dimension, and I don't know. I thought that he was just the coolest one out of everybody there, and it works because he's not, you know, he's not Superman. I guess I guess Superman's more of like this goody two shoes to me. You know what I mean? He's more of like this. Oh, you're a goody two shoes. He's pretty like basic as a hero. Whereas Mr. Terrific is kind of like, he's not the strongest guy, but he's definitely smart, he's capable, he can fight. Like, I feel like he's the best of both, you know what I mean? So, and in the end, Superman needed his help, right? Like, Superman couldn't figure out how to close the pocket dimension or, get out of the pocket dimension without his help. So, come on now, let's be real here. He saved the day, so in the end, I think that Mr. Terrific was terrific in the movie. I thought he did a great job. I forget the actor's name. He was in the what's his name? I think I seen him in it. Eddie. I don't want to mispronounce it, but is it Edie or Eddie Gathigi? Gathigi? Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Mr. Terrific, right? That actor was in I think the X-Men movie, the First Class or whatever, as Darwin. Really great. So, what else was there in this movie? The relationship between Lois Lane and Clark Kent. I thought it was good. You know what I mean? The romance aspect of the movie just kind of falls flat for me because there were so many more interesting things other than that. But it's nice to see it, you know what I mean? It's nice to see love on screen. It's romantic, it's sweet, it's nice. I thought that they did a pretty good job with it. I thought it was cute. So, it doesn't bother me all that much. I just kind of wish it was more of a build-up, I guess, they also did, what's her name? Oh, no, what's his name? Jimmy Olsen? Oh my gosh, I thought it was so funny that he was like getting hit on by like the most beautiful woman, and then he's kind of like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like he was so withdrawn or like didn't want to be with her. I thought that was so funny that he was like, that's how he breaks the story or figures out what Lex Luthor's up to, is that like he has to seduce this woman, and he's kind of like, ugh, I don't want to do that. I thought that was so funny. And what was that other girl in the movie? Oh my goodness. Now, they know for a fact what they were doing in that movie. You know what I mean? Like, she was wearing the tight clothes, the revealing dress. You know what I'm talking about. They know what they were doing in that. Now, I'm not saying like it was a conscious choice, you know what I mean? But come on now. They knew exactly what they were doing with that woman. I was like, was she only like I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe they're gonna do something with their character once they like got all the press team together, like Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and like the editor and this lady, right? I was like, oh, they're gonna make her like really smart and a part of the movie. Nope, they just kind of have her there for a little bit of eye candy, and I was like, huh? I was like, yo, there's no way this got approved by. There's no way James Gunn saw this and was like, yeah, you keep doing it. I was just like, all right, I thought it was kind of funny. But hey, shout out to her, man. She did a great job in that movie. I thought she was really lovely, and she got to show off her acting abilities very well, I thought. So, shout out to her. I thought it was really, really funny. Who else is in this movie? What else happens in this movie? I think that all things considered, this movie was pretty. It did what it needed to do. It showed off this world. It gave us, just the beginning of what could be a great cinematic universe. It's just a matter of like, how do they follow up? What's the next step, And I'm not going to say like it was the best, I'm not going to be like it was the peak of comic book movies, you know what I mean? It wasn't, but it was definitely a good step in the right direction. In a way that past past superhero movies just have not been doing. You know what I mean? So, especially with the DC movies, you know what I mean? But I thought that the movie it was good. I liked it. I thought this movie was exactly what you needed it to be. It was cheesy in all the right ways. It was fun in all the right ways. It had action. It was comedic. It had the kind of like the political standings of different characters, right? Like Lois Lane and Superman battling ideologies a little bit about what to do, what not to do, and how to follow the rules and be a superhero in society. It kind of showed off Superman still trying to figure himself out and who he is. It showed off how this meta-human world needs people that are willing to stand up and help out. It can't just all rely on one person, but they can't count on them to help, at least. You know what I mean? So, I like the movie. I like this movie. Superman, definitely a great example of how to, I guess, to start a superhero franchise again, I feel like if there was a way to start the DCU all over again, James Gunn did it the best way possible. There is no better way to start this over, So, starting from the bottom and working his way up, I think this is a great starting point, and I'm excited to see what he does next. I'm excited to see how Superman proceeds forward, so we'll have to wait and see. But until then, I have my hopes up for the Batman Part 2 or whatever. Not that those two are going to, like, be the same, but, like, I guess in terms of, like, DC movies, that's what I'm kind of excited for. But we'll have to wait and see. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.